Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are wandering into a place you definitely wouldn't book for your next vacation, a prehistoric valley where the sky is smeared with ash. The air is hot enough to melt your eyebrows, and the ground keeps twitching like it's had too much coffee. You're here standing alone, or so you think, at the edge of time staring into the mouth of a world that's trying to end itself. The valley stretches wide-rimmed with jagged cliffs, and the smell of sulfur clings to your throat. You probably won't survive this one, but hey, at least you'll have front row seats to history's most dramatic show. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. I mean, if you're into ash storms, molten rock, and the occasional existential dread, this is definitely your kind of place. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. I always wonder who else is up at this hour peering into the shadow of the ages. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle forward, boots crunching through layers of ancient ash that rise in little puffs with every step. The dawn light cuts through the haze in pale orange ribbons, but it does little to warm you. This isn't the gentle glow of a friendly sunrise, it's the warning flare of a world on the brink. Every breath fills your lungs with the taste of soot and minerals, and somewhere deep beneath your feet you feel the slow, monstrous roll of magma pushing against the Earth's crust. There's a strange stillness here. Even the wind seems reluctant to stir the ash, as if it's holding its breath. You glance around, half expecting some massive predator to emerge from the gloom. But no, this valley feels abandoned, a place where life fled long ago. And yet scattered here and there you spot the footprints of creatures that were less lucky, or maybe less wise. Three-toed impressions from a medium-sized theropod lead off toward a ridge, while broader, rounder prints, probably from a ceratopsian, disappear into a field of steaming vents. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs could sense volcanic danger the way some modern animals detect earthquakes, or whether they blundered into disaster too focused on survival to notice the rumbling beneath them. Your ears catch the faintest sound, a distant hollow boom, like some giant drum echoing through stone chambers. It makes you shiver despite the heat. That's no thunderstorm. That's the heartbeat of the volcano, and it's getting louder. You wipe sweat from your brow and press on. A blackened branch crumbles at your touch, and you remember reading somewhere that trees near active volcanoes often died standing. Their roots burned out while their trunks remained upright until the wind or time took them down. Odd fact, right? Almost poetic. Like nature leaving a reminder, even giants can fall without a sound. Suddenly, the ground gives a tiny shudder, just enough to send a trickle of pebbles skittering down a nearby slope. You freeze, heart thudding, and glance up. The ridge ahead is split by a deep fissure, steaming faintly, as if the earth itself has a slow leak. You imagine the dinosaurs who once walked here, their massive bodies shaking the ground, their tails swaying, and how none of that power could save them from what brewed below. A warm gust brushes your face, carrying with it a whiff of rotten eggs. Sulfur. Lovely. You mutter, just what I needed, and take another careful step. The valley floor is a patchwork of cracked mud, hardened lava, and ash dunes, and each footfall stirs tiny clouds that cling to your boots. You picture a hadrosaur trudging through here, its wide feet leaving prints just like yours, maybe pausing to sniff the air before realizing too late that the valley was a trap. There's a debate among paleontologists. Did dinosaurs ever get trapped directly in volcanic flows, or did they mostly perish from ash clouds, gas, and starvation after the land was poisoned? Fossils don't always tell a clear story. But standing here, you can't help but feel how easy it would be for any creature to misjudge the danger. One minute you're grazing or hunting, the next you're part of a cautionary tale told millions of years later. You pause at a low rise and scan the valley. Beyond the haze, a river of lava glows faintly like a scar of molten gold. We'll get closer soon, because of course we will, but for now you just take it in. The silence, the heat. The knowledge that this place once teemed with life, and now all that remains are faint tracks, charred wood, and the restless breath of the volcano. You sigh, brush ash off your sleeves, and give a wry smile. No one can see. Great vacation spot, you mutter, and start down the slope, boots sinking into the soft ash. Ahead, the world waits to reveal its ancient secrets, and probably to try and kill you in the process. You slide down the ash-covered slope, your feet sinking with each step, until the ground levels out and the heat intensifies. The air ripples ahead of you like the surface of a pond disturbed by a pebble. The source of that shimmering a river of lava, slow, deliberate, and terrifyingly alive. It winds its way through the valley floor, glowing red and orange, edged with black crust that hisses as it cracks and folds in on itself. It's mesmerizing, like staring into the eye of some ancient beast. You stop a few paces from the edge, the soles of your boots already uncomfortably warm. A gust of wind shifts the ash veil, and that's when you see them dinosaur tracks leading right up to the lava's edge. The prints are distorted, half melted, as if the ground beneath the creature's feet turned to liquid in the moments after it passed. You crouch, tracing the shape of a three-toed print, with your finger feeling the gritty warmth of ash and baked earth. What was it? A small theropod, maybe, judging by the size. You imagine it trotting along, perhaps chasing something, or perhaps fleeing only to find its path cut off by the molten flood. There's a faint hiss and a bubble of gas bursts in the lava with a pop. You flinch, heart racing, and take a cautious step back. The heat is oppressive, like opening an oven door too wide, but this oven stretches for miles, and its door is the earth itself. Remember when humans evolved? We had fire, but nothing like this. Nothing that could swallow a creature whole in moments. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs were capable of recognizing lava for the deadly force it is. Did they see it as we do, something to fear instinctively? Or was it just another strange sight in a dangerous world? You picture a young hadrosaur stumbling upon this glowing river for the first time, curiosity battling with caution. Maybe it edged closer, sniffing at the fumes until the heat drove it back. Or maybe it didn't back away in time. There's an odd fact to chew on while you bake out here: modern-day lava flows move slower than most people can walk. The danger isn't speed, it's how easily the heat and fumes disorient and trap you. So even if a dinosaur could outrun lava, it might not realize the danger until it was too late. Imagine one caught between this fiery river and the choking ash behind. No good choices, just a final fiery end. You shuffle along the river's edge, keeping a safe distance, or at least what feels safe, in a place where the ground might give way at any moment. The lava makes soft slurping sounds as it slides over itself, swallowing rocks and branches like a kid slurping spaghetti. Every so often, a hiss or crack startles you, and you swear the flow shifts to follow you. You mutter, "That's right. Make it personal and keep moving," wiping sweat from your eyes. The landscape is strange here. The ash dunes give way to jagged mounds of cooled lava, black and glassy in places, dull and crumbling in others. You spot patches where the molten rock had once split and oozed through the cracks, forming little lava fingers that reached out before hardening mid-creep. Among them, more tracks, some large, some small, all ending abruptly where the lava claimed the ground. You pause at a particularly wide set of prints. 4 toes splayed out like a sauropod's foot, pressed deep into the ash and hardened mud. But where do they go? Nowhere. Just 2 prints side by side, as if the animal had stopped, considered its doom, and vanished. Maybe it sank. Maybe the lava rose too fast. Maybe the ashfall was so heavy that it buried the rest of the evidence. You feel the heat radiate up through your boots and decide you've stared at the lava long enough for one lifetime. The smell of burning minerals and scorched air clings to your hair, your clothes, your skin. You step back, casting one last look at the glowing river, and wonder if any dinosaur's final moments are preserved beneath that molten blanket. Could paleontologists one day find a fossil perfectly encased in cooled lava, a snapshot of disaster? So far, no such discovery. But wouldn't that be something? The wind picks up carrying a swirl of ash that dances in the heat shimmer like ghostly insects. You turn from the lava's edge, scanning the horizon for your next move. The valley is vast, and somewhere beyond the haze more secrets wait. A charred ridge maybe, or bones blackened by ancient fire. You sigh already, feeling the weight of ash on your shoulders. And to think people pay good money for hot stone therapy. You get it for free out here. You leave the lava river behind, though its heat seems to cling to you like an unwelcome hug. The ground crunches beneath your boots as you start up a slope dusted with blackened ash and shards of volcanic rock. Each step dislodges tiny avalanches of grit that tumble down and vanish into cracks. The air here is drier, thinner, and every breath makes your throat feel like sandpaper. But you press on, driven by curiosity, or maybe just because turning back feels even more dangerous. As you climb, the slope steepens and the view widens. Below, the lava river snakes through the valley like some molten god's scar across the land. Steam rises in lazy columns from vents and cracks, and the ash clouds hang low, muting the sun into a pale smudge. But it's what lies ahead that stops you cold. The crest of the hill is littered with bones, charred, blackened, and twisted into shapes that don't seem possible. You approach slowly, boots crunching on shards of rock and ancient death. The skeletons lie jumbled, some half-buried, others sprawled as if they collapsed mid-run. Here's a rib cage warped and cracked by heat. There's a skull, its hollow eye sockets staring forever at the scorched sky. A femur thicker than your arm lies snapped in two, the break so clean it almost looks deliberate. You crouch beside it, brushing away ash with your fingers. The bone is smooth in places, pitted in others where the heat blistered its surface. Historians still debate whether these bones were victims of a sudden eruption buried by a pyroclastic flow or the remnants of creatures that tried to escape an older, slower catastrophe. Some argue that volcanic gas could have suffocated entire herds, dropping them where they stood. Others think the ground gave way beneath them, swallowing them into fiery pits before spitting up their remains. No one knows for sure. And here you are trying to piece together a puzzle where half the pieces are ash and the rest are melted. There's an odd fact for you: volcanic lightning. When eruptions get especially fierce, the ash clouds generate so much static electricity that lightning crackles through the sky. Imagine being a dinosaur already terrified by the shaking ground, only to see the heavens explode in fire. That's the kind of day that ends badly for everyone. You pick your way through the bone field, careful not to slip on loose ash or the glassy shards of cooled lava. The hill is steeper than it looked from below, and your legs ache from the climb. But the view at the top, worth it if worth it means seeing the world as a charred ruin. From here, the valley stretches in all directions, a sea of black and gray, punctuated by the occasional defiant tree trunk or steam vent. The lava river glows faintly in the distance, and beyond that, the dark bulk of the volcano looms against the ashen sky. You spot more tracks near the summit, deep gouges in the ground where claws dug and maybe trying to scramble uphill. They end abruptly at a rock fall, as if the creature was caught mid-stride. You can almost hear its panicked grunts, the scrape of its claws on stone, the roar of the volcano drowning out everything else. You find a shady spot, well, as shady as a place can be when the sky itself glows, and sit for a moment, catching your breath. The heat rises in shimmering waves from the bones and rocks, and the air tastes like metal and smoke. You wonder if any of these creatures had a chance, if they sensed the doom coming and tried to outrun it. Or if they were like the trees, rooted in place, unable to flee, victims of a force they couldn't understand. A soft breeze stirs the ash, and you swear the bones seem to shift as if trying to tell you their story. You lean back, close your eyes for just a second, and imagine the scene as it was: a herd of herbivores grazing on a hillside, A predator lurking at the edge of the trees, and then the sudden roar, the shaking, the searing heat. Panic, stampede, collapse, and silence. You open your eyes, the illusion gone, and give a small, dry laugh. Great storytelling nature, very subtle. You rise, brushing the ash from your pants, and look ahead. The ridge dips down on the other side, leading toward another venting field. More bones? Maybe. Or maybe something stranger. After all, you're only just starting to understand what this place hides. You descend the far side of the hill, each step sending little slides of ash and rock skittering down ahead of you. The heat radiates from the ground itself, now seeping through the soles of your boots like some cruel joke. You wipe the back of your hand across your forehead and squint into the haze where faint columns of steam rise from a patchwork of vents. The ground here is cracked and blistered, as if the earth tried to breathe but choked on its own fury. You slow your pace when you spot something round shapes half buried in the ash. At first you think they're just stones, but as you get closer you realize they're fossilized eggs. Dozens of them arranged in a rough circle near the mouth of a steaming vent. Some are shattered, the broken shells curled inward like burned parchment. Others remain intact, their surfaces streaked with mineral stains. You crouch, reaching out to brush the ash from one egg's surface, and the shell feels oddly smooth, almost polished by the ages. There's a sharp tremor beneath you, quick, like a muscle spasm in the earth's skin. You freeze, hand still on the egg, and glance at the vent. A plume of steam bursts upward with a hiss, as if the ground itself is sighing in frustration. Lovely. You're in a prehistoric oven surrounded by the leftovers of some ancient tragedy. Just your luck. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs intentionally nested near geothermal vents for warmth, or whether this was sheer bad luck. Some fossils suggest certain species favored volcanic soils, rich in minerals, soft for digging. But here, it looks like a death trap disguised as a cozy nursery. Maybe a mother laid these eggs during a quiet season, only for the volcano to awaken and turn her hopeful clutch into relics. Odd fact, in some modern geothermal fields, birds and even insects still make use of warm ground to speed up their eggs' incubation. Nature has always been a little bit of a gambler that way. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes you get, well, this. You stand brushing your hands on your legs and take a slow walk around the nest site. The pattern of the eggs suggests care. A mother who arranged them, maybe even guarded them once. You imagine her here watching over her future hatchlings while the ground rumbled beneath her feet. Did she sense the danger? Did she try to move the eggs, or did she stay too long caught between instinct and fear? The air grows thicker as more steam vents hiss around you. The ground feels warm enough that you wonder if your boots will start to soften. You mutter, "It's like standing on a giant pizza stone," and take a cautious step away from the largest vent. The rim glows faintly, minerals baked into strange colors by the constant heat. You wonder how deep it goes, if somewhere far below magma bubbles and waits, biding its time. A new tremor ripples through the ground, stronger this time. A rock tumbles from a ledge nearby, clattering down the slope and vanishing into a crack. You feel the pulse of the earth beneath your feet, steady, deliberate like the volcano's heartbeat. You can almost hear it saying, "Not done yet." You kneel beside another egg, this one cracked open to reveal its ancient, empty core. You can't help but wonder what it would have been. A hadrosaur, a small ceratopsian. Some species no one's yet discovered. The fossil record doesn't always offer neat answers. Sometimes it just gives you more questions wrapped in stone. A breeze stirs the steam and ash, momentarily clearing your view. You see more nests scattered across the slope, some closer to active vents, others perched precariously on ledges. It's a haunting sight, so much hope turned to ruin. You sigh, the heat making even that small act feel like work, and rise. The ground beneath you gives a tiny, unsettling pop, like cracking knuckles, and you decide it's time to move on. As you pick your way through the vent field, the nests fade into the ash behind you, swallowed again by the restless earth. The volcano isn't done telling its story, and neither are you. Ahead lies more ruin, more mystery, and probably more chances for the ground to try to kill you. But hey, at least you're getting your steps in. You trudge away from the nest-filled boots, scraping over jagged rock and patches of scorched soil that crackle beneath your weight. The air here feels thinner somehow, as if the volcano's breath has stolen the oxygen, leaving only heat and grit behind. You pause to catch your breath, gaze sweeping the landscape for some sign of safety, or at least something less likely to collapse beneath your feet. Instead, your eyes lock onto a scene that sends a chill down your spine despite the furnace you're standing in. At the edge of a broad ledge, a scatter of bones and footprints tells a story of panic. The prints are deep-clawed, made by creatures that must have been heavy, desperate, or both. The pattern is chaotic, no orderly march here. You see tracks crossing over one another, some skidding, others ending abruptly at the cliff's edge, where the rock looks broken, as if a chunk of earth simply fell away. You kneel, brushing ash from one set of prints. 3 toes, sharp claws, small enough to belong to a juvenile predator, a young theropod maybe. Its tracks are frantic, weaving between larger prints that suggest adults. Hunters perhaps drawn to this place by prey only to be betrayed by the land itself. You can almost hear their calls, the guttural cries, the snap of jaws, the rush of bodies as the ground quaked beneath them. Historians still debate whether such events, stampedes at the crater's rim, were common or rare tragedies. Fossil sites with jumbled skeletons have been found near ancient volcanic regions, but sorting out whether they died in a hunt gone wrong or a natural disaster is no small task. Some paleontologists argue that predators might have been lured too close by easy meals, sick, or panicked prey fleeing the volcano only to fall victim themselves. There's an odd fact for you: modern Komodo dragons have been known to follow injured animals for days, waiting for them to weaken. Now imagine a pack of hungry theropods doing the same, only their quarry leads them straight to doom. You step carefully around the broken edge of the ledge, peering down at the rocky slope below. The drop isn't far, maybe 20 feet, but the stones are sharp and the ground beyond is littered with boulders that weren't there a few moments ago. The tremors must have loosened them. You sigh. This whole place feels like it's waiting for you to let your guard down. You mutter, nice try, and continue along the rim, following the tracks until they vanish beneath a fresh rockfall. Everywhere you look, the land bears scars of catastrophe. The rocks are cracked and blackened. The plants, what few there are, wilted and gray. And yet you can't help but picture the scene as it was before the eruption, a forest of ferns and cycads, the air filled with the cries of dinosaurs, the ground solid beneath their feet. Then the earth split and chaos ruled. You find a place to sit, a flat stone that seems stable enough, and take a swig from your water bottle, though the liquid is warm and metallic tasting now. You glance at the tracks again, thinking of those ancient hunters. Were they drawn by hunger, by instinct, or did they just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time? The volcano doesn't care. It claims predator and prey alike. The breeze picks up swirling ash into tiny whirlwinds that dance across the ledge. You pull your bandana higher over your face, the ash gritty against your skin. The ground beneath your seat vibrates with another deep tremor, and you decide that sitting is overrated. Time to move. The crater's edge isn't a place to linger, not if you value your bones unshattered. You stand, brushing ash from your pants, and start down a narrow trail that skirts the rim. The prints of those doomed theropods fade behind you, lost to the shifting ash. But their story lingers in your mind, a reminder that even the fiercest hunters can fall when the world turns against them. And this world? Oh, it's only just getting started. The trail you follow narrows as it winds down the slope, the ash and rock beneath your boots crunching like broken glass. The heat presses against your back like a smothering hand, and the air smells sharper now. Minerals and burnt earth mingling into something both ancient and wrong. You glance up and spot it ahead, what was once a lake, now nothing but a vast simmering cauldron. The water, if you can even call it that, bubbles and spits a stew of ash rock and boiling mud. You pick your way toward its cracked shoreline where the ground feels soft underfoot like dough left too long in the sun, and then you see them bones half submerged in the gray muck. A rib cage here, a skull there, their shapes warped by heat and time. It's like stumbling upon a graveyard no one meant to build. You crouch at the edge, staring at the lake's restless surface. Once this was a place where dinosaurs came to drink, to cool off, maybe even to bathe. Now, it's a trap, a boiling death for anything that ventures too close. You imagine the scene: a group of aquatic reptiles, perhaps something like a plesiosaur or a crocodilian ancestor, drawn to the water's edge, only to be caught as the temperature soared. The water turning to steam around them, scalding flesh, blinding eyes, no chance of escape. Historians still debate whether such deadly lakes formed in an instant triggered by sudden surges of magma, or whether they heated slowly, luring animals back again and again, until one day the surface boiled and death claimed the unwary. Fossils near ancient volcanic lakes hint at both possibilities. But as you stand here, the scene feels immediate, inevitable, as if doom was always baked into this place. Odd fact for your mental collection: there are modern lakes like Lake Nyos in Cameroon that can suffocate entire villages when gas builds up and suddenly erupts to the surface. Invisible killers lurking beneath the water's calm face. Nature's always had a dark sense of humor. You edge away from the shore, the ground warm even through your boots, and glance back at the lake one last time. The surface heaves and a great bubble bursts, sending a plume of steam skyward. You flinch, heart thudding. The land grumbles beneath you, and for a moment you swear you hear it. The hiss of ancient animals, the crackle of boiling flesh, the chaos of a herd realizing too late that their haven had turned into a trap. You shake your head, trying to banish the image. Thanks, brain. Really needed that. You skirt the lake's edge, keeping to higher ground where the soil feels a little firmer, the air a little clearer. But the memory of those bones sticks with you, as stubborn as the ash clinging to your boots. The wind shifts, carrying the lake's hot breath across the valley. The taste of it coats your tongue. Bitter metallic, the flavor of a world in collapse. You press on, drawn by the promise, or maybe the threat, of what lies beyond this cauldron. The volcano is speaking in rumbles and steam, and you're here to listen whether you like it or not. You leave the boiling lake behind, though the heat seems to follow you, clinging to your skin, seeping into your bones. The ground here is uneven, broken by deep cracks and sudden ridges of cooled lava that crunch underfoot like ancient pottery. The sky, if you can call it that, has darkened. Ash clouds gather and thicken, blotting out what little sun managed to pierce the haze. And then it happens, a sound so sudden it feels like the world is tearing apart. A low, thunderous roar, not from the earth, but from the sky itself. You look up just as a rain of stones begins to fall, small at first, pebbles that patter against the rocks, harmless. But the pebbles grow into fist-sized chunks of volcanic debris, crashing to the ground with frightening force. You duck beneath a half-burned log, its bark blackened and brittle, and watch as the valley is pelted by the sky's fury. It's easy to imagine what came before: herds of dinosaurs caught in the open, nowhere to hide as the air filled with burning stones. The ground shakes with each impact, the noise deafening, and you picture massive creatures brought low not by teeth or claws, but by the weight of a collapsing sky. Historians still debate whether pyroclastic surges, the fast-moving clouds of ash gas and rock that can race down a volcano's slopes at terrifying speeds, were the true killers of the age. Some argue that these surges could overtake even the fastest dinosaur, suffocating, burning, and burying them all in minutes. Fossil beds near ancient volcanic regions offer clues: skeletons frozen in their final desperate poses. Ash filling the spaces where lungs once drew breath. An odd fact to ponder while the sky tries to bury you. There are frogs today that can survive being encased in mud or ash for months, even years, waiting for rain to free them. You wonder if some small prehistoric creature managed the same trick hidden beneath the ash until the storm passed. The stone rain begins to ease, the impacts fewer, the sky's roar fading into a low grumble. You crawl from your shelter, brushing ash from your hair, your clothes. The valley looks transformed. The ground is littered with fresh debris, the air thick with dust. You cough the taste of sulfur sharp on your tongue and glance around for a safer path. Everywhere you look, you see destruction. Charred tree stumps jut from the ash like broken spears. The bones of animals, some shattered by falling rocks, lie scattered across the plain. You pick your way through the wreckage, boots sinking into drifts of ash that shift beneath your weight. A breeze stirs the dust, and for a moment the scene clears. You see the slope of the volcano itself, dark and massive, its peak lost in the churning clouds. The ground beneath your feet vibrates with another deep tremor, and you wonder how much longer this land will hold together. You mutter, "Sky, earth, lava. Anything else want a shot at me today?" The volcano offers no reply, only a distant rumble, as if considering your challenge. You press on, driven by curiosity or maybe just stubbornness. There's more to see, more to learn, and probably more ways to nearly get yourself flattened by history's most dramatic disasters. But hey, at least you're getting a good story out of it. You press forward, boots sinking into drifts of fine ash that puff up with each step, clinging to your legs like a second skin. The air is quieter now, save for the occasional crack of a settling boulder or the soft hiss of steam escaping from unseen vents. The ground slopes gently downward, leading you into what must have once been a forest. But what greets you now is no living grove. You stop at the edge of the field, blinking through the haze at the eerie sight before you. Tree trunks stripped of branches and bark stand like stone sentinels in neat rows. Their surfaces glisten in places where volcanic minerals have seeped into the wood, petrifying them into statues of their former selves. Ferns, or what remains of them, lie flattened beneath sheets of cooled ash and mud, their fronds preserved in ghostly detail. It's beautiful in a grim, end-of-the-world sort of way. You step among the trunks, your fingers brushing one as you pass. The woodstone now feels cold, smooth, and strangely hollow, as if the life that once filled it has been drawn out and locked away. You can almost see it, can't you? Herds of herbivores, hadrosaurs, maybe moving through the ferns. Tails swaying heads down as they fed, unaware of the doom brewing beneath their feet. Historians still debate whether petrified forests like this one were preserved by sudden burial or by slow mineral replacement over centuries. Some argue that volcanic mudflows did the job in hours, sealing entire ecosystems in a tomb of ash and rock. Others point to evidence of longer, slower processes at work. Either way, what remains is a snapshot of a world brought to a standstill. Here's an odd fact to lighten the mood. Petrified wood is often so dense it can spark when struck against steel. Nature's way of arming the forest long after the trees themselves are dead. You pause beside a massive trunk that must have once shaded half the forest floor. At its base, you spot something that makes your breath hitch, a partial footprint pressed deep into hardened ash. 3 toes, blunt claws, the size unmistakable. A herbivore caught mid-stride as the ashfall smothered the land. You crouch, tracing the edge of the print, imagining the creature's last moments. Did it sense the change in the air, the heat, the tremble of the ground? Or did it simply fall where it stood, felled by a force it couldn't see? The wind shifts, carrying with it the faintest scent of sulfur and scorched earth. You rise, brushing ash from your knees, and take in the silent field. The trees, the ferns, the footprints, all frozen in time, all testaments to a day when life tried and failed to outrun death. You mutter, "Fern field of ghosts." Bet the travel brochures left this part out and continue on, boots crunching on the ash-laced ground. The trees grow sparser as you move the petrified trunks, giving way to open patches of cracked earth and scattered boulders. But the silence remains heavy and unbroken, as if even the wind respects this graveyard. The volcano rumbles, again a deep, distant growl that reminds you this isn't just history you're walking through. The mountain isn't done yet. And somewhere ahead the land has more stories to tell and more ways to test your luck. You leave the petrified grove behind, though its memory clings to you, a weight as heavy as the ash that cakes your boots. The ground flattens here, stretching out in a broad plain of cracked mud and scattered stones. The heat has eased, if only slightly, but the air remains thick with the scent of sulfur and the faint tang of something ancient, something that smells like endings. You shuffle onward until you see it, a scatter of bones so vast it stops you in your tracks. A herd. Dozens, maybe more, their remains tangled together in a chaotic sprawl. Skulls gape at the ash-laden sky ribs, arch like broken cages, legs jut at unnatural angles. The bones are bleached, some blackened at the tips, others coated in a thin crust of mineral deposits left by ancient floods. You crouch near the nearest skeleton, a massive herbivore, its horned skull cracked but still fierce in death. The creature's body is twisted, its spine curved as if frozen mid-run. Around it, smaller bones, perhaps juveniles, lie jumbled together. It's the story of a desperate flight and of something that outran even the swiftest. Historians still debate the fate of such fossilized herds. Some point to lava flows, walls of fire that advance too quickly, cutting off escape. Others argue that ashfall smothered the beasts, or that invisible clouds of toxic gas dropped them where they stood. And then there's the theory of mud flows, volcanic debris racing down the slopes, swallowing the herd mid-stride and leaving behind this eerie tableau. Odd fact for the day, the La Brea tar pits once trapped animals in much the same way, but instead of ash or lava, it was sticky tar that held them fast. Nature's traps come in all forms, it seems. You walk carefully among the bones, boots sinking into soft patches of ash and hardened mud. Here and there you see the clear imprint of hooves, clawed feet, even the drag marks of a tail. The ground tells the tale as much as the skeletons do. Panic, struggle, collapse. The weight of their final moments presses in around you, silent but undeniable. The wind picks up, stirring the ash into low drifts that lap at the bones like ghostly waves. You pause, glancing toward the volcano. It looms dark and immense, its peak hidden in roiling clouds. Another tremor ripples beneath your feet, soft, almost gentle, but enough to remind you that the mountain is still watching, still waiting. You imagine the herd's last moments, the ground shaking the sky, darkening, the heat rising. Maybe they turned as one, fleeing some unseen terror. Maybe they split, the young lost in the chaos, the old struggling to keep pace. And in the end, the earth swallowed them all, leaving only these bones to mark their passing. You sigh, brushing ash from your hands, and straighten. The plain stretches on, and somewhere beyond this graveyard lies your next test. But for now, you take a moment, standing amid the fallen feeling, the weight of history and of the volcano's quiet threat. You leave the buried herd behind, their silent story etched into your mind as you cross the plain. The air hums with tension now, as if the volcano is holding its breath. The ground beneath your feet shifts from cracked mud to hardened ripples of cooled lava, black and glossy like spilled ink. The terrain dips suddenly, and you find yourself at the mouth of a cave. No, not a cave. A lava tube. You hesitate at the entrance. The opening yawns wide, framed by jagged edges that glisten faintly with mineral residue. A faint breeze issues from within, carrying with it a scent both metallic and stale, like old stone and trapped time. You shine your light inside. Yes, you have a light. You're not that reckless and see the tunnel stretch away into darkness, its walls smooth and curved where molten rock once flowed like water. You step inside, the temperature dropping sharply. The air here feels heavy, as if the earth itself is reluctant to let go of what it's hidden. Your boots echo softly on the stone floor, the sound swallowed quickly by the tube's bend. Shadows play along the walls, tricking your eyes into seeing movement where there is none. Or is there? Historians still debate whether lava tubes served as accidental tombs for prehistoric creatures. Some argue that frightened animals might have fled into these cooling tunnels during eruptions seeking shelter, only to find themselves trapped when the exits collapsed, or when the heat and gases overcame them. Others believe such deaths would be rare, that most creatures would have avoided these hidden mazes entirely. The evidence, as always, is scarce: a few scattered bones found deep in tubes and a lot of unanswered questions. An odd fact for you: modern lava tubes on places like Hawaii and Iceland are known to house colonies of insects and bats that have adapted to their unique environment. Even in death, these tunnels find ways to cradle life. You advance cautiously, your light flickering on mineral veins in the walls, reds, oranges, even a faint green here and there. The floor is uneven, coated with layers of cooled drips and ripples where lava hardened mid-flow. You step over a collapsed section, the ceiling cracked and fallen, revealing the sky above in a jagged scar. Ash filters down through the gap like gray snow settling on your shoulders. Deeper inside, the tube curves and narrows. The air grows colder still, and your breath mists before you. The silence is complete, save for the soft crunch of ash beneath your boots. It feels as if the world outside has vanished, leaving you in a pocket of ancient time. You pause, listening, imagining perhaps the heavy tread of a creature long gone echoing in these same shadows. You picture it. A dinosaur, maybe small, maybe young, driven into this tube by terror. The glow of lava behind the promise of safety ahead. But the safety was an illusion. The exit collapsed, the heat followed, and the tunnel became a tomb. You shiver despite yourself, and not from the cold. A deep tremor rolls through the earth, making the walls hum softly. Bits of ash drift down from cracks overhead. You mutter, "Of course! Why wouldn't the mountain want to remind me who's in charge?" and turn back toward the entrance, deciding you've learned enough from this particular relic. As you emerge, blinking into the ash-thick daylight, you glance back once more. The lava tube waits, its secrets sealed in stone, its ghosts quiet for now. But the volcano story isn't finished, and neither is yours. You step back out into the ash-choked daylight, the cold of the lava tube lingering on your skin like a memory. The ground vibrates beneath your boots, subtle but insistent. A reminder that the volcano's patience is wearing thin. Ahead, the land slopes gently toward a rocky outcrop where the ash is thinner, the stone beneath scorched but stable. And that's where you see them, tracks not of prey this time, but of hunters. Large three-toed prints circle the area, overlapping in a chaotic pattern that speaks of frenzy. Clawed feet dug into the ash and soil, gouging deep furrows as their owners moved around the rim of what must have been a fresh lava flow. You picture them, carnivores, sleek and powerful, drawn to the chaos for easy meals. Scavengers at the edge of hell, risking their own lives to pick at the bodies of the fallen. You crouch beside one of the prints, your fingers tracing the hardened impression. It's big, larger than a modern lion's paw, with claws that could shred through hide like paper. And yet here it is, frozen in the ash. The mark of a predator that thought itself untouchable. You stand scanning the landscape. The lava flow is gone now, cooled to black rock streaked with red minerals. But the memory of its heat lingers, and so do the stories of the creatures it claimed. Historians still debate whether scavengers at volcanic sites thrived or perished in greater numbers. Some argue that the promise of easy food outweighed the risks, that hunger drove even the cleverest predator too close to the fire. Others believe that most stayed clear, instinct warning them off. The fossil record offers both hints and mysteries. Bones found near ancient flows, some with tooth marks, some untouched, all silent witnesses to what once was. Odd fact to toss into your mental backpack. Modern birds of prey, like vultures, have been observed circling above active wildfires, waiting for the blaze to flush out or finish off their next meal. Fire, it seems, has always been both a killer and a provider. You walk the edge of the ancient flow boots, crunching on brittle rock. The wind carries the scent of scorched earth and minerals, and beneath it all, something faintly sweet, the lingering ghost of burned vegetation perhaps. The prints lead you to a narrow gap where the lava once pushed through, and you can almost see the seen scavengers picking at the edges of the molten river, jaws dripping, eyes wary, tails flicking. As the heat rose and the ground trembled, you pause listening. The volcano groans deep below as if acknowledging the memory. A gust of wind stirs the ash, and for a heartbeat, you imagine shapes moving at the flow's edge. Ghostly hunters forever circling a feast they can never quite reach. You shake your head, muttering, "Great. Now I'm seeing things and press on." The volcano's voice grows louder now, the ground beneath your feet warmer. You know this journey is far from over. But for a moment, you can't help but respect those ancient hunters, the ones who risked everything for one more meal at the end of the world. You leave the scavengers trail behind, but their story lingers with you, a reminder that hunger can make fools of even the fiercest. The ground beneath your feet hums with a steady pulse now, like the volcano is tapping its fingers against the crust, growing impatient. You pick your way along a ridge of cooled lava, the stone beneath your boots cracked and brittle. In places, the air thick with heat and the scent of burnt minerals. And then you see it, the crater, the place where it all began. The rim rises jagged and dark against the ashen sky, steam hissing from fractures in the stone like the volcano's breath. You approach slowly, boots slipping on loose rock, the heat intensifying with each step. The crater itself yawns wide, a vast pit of blackened rock and glowing seams where molten rock still simmers beneath the surface. You stand at the lip, the world falling silent around you. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. And for a moment you imagine it, the final cry of a dinosaur caught at the heart of the eruption. A roar of defiance, of terror, of pain. Did any voice ever rise above the volcano's fury? Historians still debate whether the creatures near these craters were incinerated in an instant, or whether some survived long enough to leave behind signs of their struggle. The fossil record near ancient calderas offers tantalizing hints but few answers. You crouch, staring into the pit, the heat so fierce it makes your skin prickle. The rock beneath your hands is rough, warm, dusted with ash that clings to your palms. The crater's depths glow faintly in places, veins of molten rock pulsing like the volcano's heartbeat. You wonder if any dinosaur ever stood where you stand now, gazing into the fire. And if they did what they felt in that last moment. Odd fact for you to chew on: modern volcanoes can produce sounds so low, so deep that the human ear can't hear them. Infrasound, they call it, a voice below the range of hearing. Maybe the volcano spoke to the dinosaurs in that voice, a warning they didn't understand until it was too late. A tremor shakes the ground, sending a few loose stones tumbling into the pit. You take a careful step back, heart thudding. The crater feels alive, as if it watches you, considers you, weighs your place in its story. The ash swirls around your feet, and you can't help but whisper, "Not today, old friend, not today." You turn from the rim, the volcano's breath hot against your back, and begin picking your way down the slope. The crater's silence follows you, heavy and absolute, a reminder that even the mightiest creatures of the past fell silent in the face of fire and stone. And you're just a visitor borrowing time in a place that belongs to the ages. You descend the slope, boots scuffing over loose ash and shards of blackened rock. Your mind still echoing with the imagined cry of that doomed dinosaur. The air here feels thicker, heavier, as if the volcano's breath presses down on you, reminding you that you're still on borrowed time. And then, just as you think you've seen every horror this ancient disaster has to offer, you spot it, a shape half buried in a drift of cooled debris that makes you stop cold. It's the outline of a dinosaur, or what's left of it. The body is twisted, limbs curled inward, jaws agape, as if frozen mid-roar. But what stops you isn't just the pose, it's the surface. The creature is encased in a layer of glossy black like a statue carved from glass. Obsidian. Volcanic glass formed when lava cooled so quickly it hardened into sharp, shining stone. The beast looks trapped in a nightmare, caught between worlds, its final moment preserved in brutal, glittering detail. You approach slowly, boots crunching on shards of the same black glass. The obsidian reflects the ashen light, casting strange patterns on the ground. You crouch beside the figure fingers hovering just above its surface. The details are haunting: the curve of the neck, the splay of clawed toes, even the faint impression of skin texture beneath the glassy sheen. It's a sight that would make any paleontologist's heart race and any sensible person back away slowly. Historians still debate whether such finds are real or the stuff of legend. Could a dinosaur really have been encased in obsidian preserved like a bug in amber? No specimen has ever been confirmed, but the idea lingers in the imagination. Some claim fragmentary bones fused with volcanic glass have been found. Others argue it's wishful thinking, the product of too much storytelling and not enough evidence. Odd fact: obsidian was once so valued that it was traded across vast prehistoric networks, prized for its sharpness and beauty. You can still find tools and arrowheads made from it, sharper than steel, fashioned by hands long gone. You stand staring down at the creature and the wind shifts, stirring the ash at your feet. The shape seems to shimmer for a moment, as if about to move, about to break free from its glassy prison. You swallow hard, take a cautious step back, and remind yourself that ghosts don't walk, at least not in daylight. The volcano rumbles beneath you, a low grating sound that makes your teeth ache. The obsidian shape lies silent, its story sealed beneath a surface smooth as ice, sharp as memory. You turn away at last, leaving it behind as you continue down the slope, the mountain's voice growing louder with each step. Somewhere ahead, the fire still flows, and you've more to witness before this journey ends. The slope grows steeper, and the ground beneath your boots feels more treacherous with every step. The black glass gives way to rough, cracked rock, and the ash drifts thin out, as if even they have been swept aside by what came next. You reach a rise and stop, breath catching in your throat, at the sight below, a flood of fire frozen in time. The lava field stretches as far as your eye can see, a sea of solid black and deep red, rippled like a river caught mid-motion. The surface is broken by great slabs where the molten flow cooled and cracked apart, and by mounds where gases burst free before the rock could harden fully. Here and there, scorched stumps of trees protrude like the bones of giants, their trunks hollowed out and filled with cooled rock. You can almost hear it, the roar of the lava, as it raced across the plain, consuming everything in its path. You descend carefully, boots skidding on loose stones, until you stand at the edge of the flow. The rock beneath your feet is warm even now, as if the fire that forged it lingers just below the surface. You crouch, placing a hand on the cooled lava, feeling the ridges and ripples left by its passage. And you imagine what it must have been like, the flood surging forward, unstoppable, swallowing trees, animals, entire landscapes without pause or mercy. Historians still debate the speed of ancient lava flows. Some argue that certain eruptions produced rivers of molten rock that moved faster than a person or a dinosaur could run. Others believe most flows advanced slowly, a creeping doom that gave creatures time to flee if they had anywhere to go. The fossil record gives hints but no certainties. Bones have been found encased in old flows, but whether they fell victim to the fire itself or to the chaos that came before is a mystery no one can fully answer. Odd fact: lava floods aren't just a relic of prehistory. In 1783, Iceland's Loki eruption unleashed a flow that covered hundreds of square miles, killed livestock, poisoned crops, and changed the climate across Europe for years. Nature hasn't forgotten how to remind us who's in charge. You walk the edge of the field, boots clinking against the sharp rock. The heat radiates upward and the air shimmers above the darker patches where the rock is thinnest. You step carefully, knowing that beneath this seemingly solid surface could be pockets of brittle crust ready to give way. A tremor ripples through the earth and you stop heart-thudding, listening as the rock beneath your feet groans. The volcano's voice is louder now, its breath hotter. The flood of fire may have cooled, but the source, the heart of the mountain still burns. You turn, scanning the horizon. Beyond this field, the land rises once more, ash-dusted and broken, leading toward the final stretch of your journey. You mutter, because of course the mountain saved the worst for last, and press on the weight of history heavy on your shoulders. The flood of fire lies behind you, but its heat follows a reminder that in the shadow of the ages, nothing stays still for long. You climb the last rise slowly, every muscle aching from the heat, the ash, the endless scramble over treacherous ground. The slope here is gentle, the earth cracked and dry, as if even the lava refused to linger too long. The air is still unnervingly so, as if the world has paused to listen. And then you crest the ridge and see it a plain of gray and black, stretching to the horizon, the sky above dark as soot. Ash drifts lazily down, soft as snow, coating everything in a fine, silent blanket. You stand still, letting the quiet settle over you. This is the final resting place not of one creature, not of one herd, but of countless lives claimed by the mountain's fury. Bones lie scattered beneath the ash, some poking through like broken promises. You see the curve of a rib, the tip of a horn, the outline of a clawed foot frozen in mid-step. The volcano took them all, hunter, prey, young, old, and left behind only this field of shadows. You kneel, brushing the ash from a skull half buried near your boots. The hollow sockets stare back at you, empty, silent. You wonder what it saw in its last moments. Did it turn confused as the ground shook? Did it try to run only to be overtaken by the ash, the heat, the gas? Or did it fall where it stood, the breath stolen from its lungs before it could even cry out? Historians still debate which was the deadliest, the fire, the choking ash, or the poison gas that rolled down the mountain's flanks. The truth may never be known. An odd fact drifts through your mind after some volcanic eruptions. The ash can circle the globe, turning sunsets red and cooling the planet for years. Even now, the breath of a single mountain can touch the entire world. You sit feeling the warmth of the ground beneath you, the weight of ash on your shoulders, the hush of a world that once roared with life. The volcano grumbles softly, a reminder that its story isn't finished, not truly. But for now, the plain sleeps the memories of the lost, sealed beneath layers of soot and stone. You take one last look, letting the image blur in the settling ash and rise. The journey is done. The mountain remains. And you carry its story whispered from the shadows of the ages. Now, let's take a breath together at the edge of this scorched world. Imagine for a moment the plain before you, the ash, soft beneath your feet, the sky heavy but quiet. The bones of those lost to the volcano's wrath rest beneath that gray blanket, their stories woven into the earth itself. You turn from the field, the wind stirring ash into gentle swirls, and feel the weight of history ease from your shoulders just a little. The volcano hums softly behind you, its fire banked for now. The world grows still. You take a slow breath, let it out, and know that the shadows of the ages will always linger, but tonight they've shared their tale, and they are at peace.